Imagine a ticking clock, but instead of seconds, it's counting kilograms. 440 kilograms to be exact. That is the amount of 60% enriched uranium Iran is currently sitting on. In the world of nuclear physics, they aren't just close to the finish line, they are breathing down its neck. One small step to 90% and the world changes forever. We've heard the rhetoric for years. We've seen the headlines about the Iran-Israel war moving from the shadows into the light. But today, the question isn't just about if, it's about why. Why has the most powerful military on earth, the US, not taken the shot? Why hasn't Israel, a nation that views an Iranian bomb as an existential threat, launched the F-35s to end this once and for all? Is it a lack of will, or is the nuclear ghost of Tehran protected by something far stronger than steel and concrete? Tonight, we're going inside the bunkers, analyzing the high-stakes gamble of Donald Trump and asking the question every American parent is thinking. Are we on the verge of another forever war, or is there a way out that doesn't involve a mushroom cloud? To understand the gravity of the situation, we have to talk about the number, 440 kilograms. In the high-stakes game of nuclear brinkmanship, this isn't just a stockpile, it's a loaded gun. Currently, Iran has enriched this uranium to 60% purity. To the average person, that might sound like they are only 2/3 of the way there. But in reality, reaching 60% is the hardest part of the marathon. Moving from 60% to 90% weapons grade is a sprint that could happen in a matter of weeks or even days. This is why the tension in the Iran-Israel war has reached a fever pitch. We aren't talking about a distant threat anymore. We are talking about a breakout capacity that is virtually invisible to the naked eye. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Even if the US or Israel decided to strike today, where exactly would they aim? The Iranian nuclear heart isn't sitting in a warehouse in Tehran. It is buried deep within the mountains of Fordow and Natanz. We're talking about facilities carved into solid rock, protected by hundreds of feet of earth and reinforced concrete. These aren't just bunkers, they are underground cathedrals of science designed specifically to withstand the mother of all bombs. Military analysts have been blunt. A conventional airstrike might scratch the surface or delay the centrifuges, but it won't stop the clock. There is a terrifying physical reality here. If you bomb a facility containing 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, you aren't just destroying a building, you are risking a massive radiological disaster that could contaminate the entire region. It's a classic checkmate move. Iran has placed its most dangerous assets in a fortress where the cost of destruction might be higher than the cost of containment. As we watch the shadow of Israel looming over these sites, the world holds its breath, wondering if a military solution is even a solution at all. This brings us to a question that has left many political analysts in Washington scratching their heads: the Trump factor. Throughout his time in the spotlight, Donald Trump has been the loudest voice calling for maximum pressure on Tehran. He's the man who tore up the nuclear deal and authorized the strike on Qasem Soleimani. So, if the threat of Israel-Iran reaching a nuclear flashpoint is so dire, why hasn't he ordered the final blow to those 440 kilograms of uranium? In a recent sit-down with Fox News, Trump dropped a bombshell that many missed. When asked about a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, he pivoted, suggesting the US isn't focused on that right now. It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? But look closer. This isn't just about a change of heart, it's about a brutal calculation of reality. You see, there is a limit to what kinetic force, bombs, and missiles can achieve. Senator Chris Murphy and several high-ranking defense officials have pointed out a terrifying truth. You cannot bomb knowledge. The Iranian nuclear program isn't just a collection of centrifuges and pipes, it's a brain trust. The scientific infrastructure of Iran consists of thousands of physicists and engineers who have already mastered the cycle. If you flatten the buildings today, they will rebuild them tomorrow, perhaps even faster and deeper. There is also the logistical nightmare of recovery. If the US or Israel were to attempt to physically seize those 440 kilograms to prevent them from being used in a war, they would have to launch a full-scale ground invasion of a country larger than Alaska, defended by a military ready to fight to the death. The cost in American lives and taxpayer dollars would be astronomical. In the context of the Iran-Israel war, we are realizing that while we have the power to destroy, we might not have the power to delete the threat. It's a bitter pill to swallow for a superpower. Sometimes, the most sophisticated weapons in our arsenal are useless against a ghost in a machine. If the nuclear bunkers are too deep to crack, the US and Israel have another card to play, one that targets the very lifeblood of the Iranian regime. Enter Karg Island. Located in the Persian Gulf, this isn't just a piece of land. It is a massive deep-water terminal that handles roughly 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. It is the jugular vein of their economy. Military planners have long whispered about a decapitation strike on Karg. The logic is simple. If you can't stop the scientists, you can at least stop the money that pays them. If the F-35s from Israel or the long-range bombers of the US were to take Karg offline, the Iranian economy would effectively flatline overnight. No oil, no cash, no proxies. But here's where it gets complicated for us back home. Targeting Karg Island is a double-edged sword. First, there's the legal nightmare. International law generally forbids the destruction of purely civilian or economic infrastructure. If the West takes out Iran's primary source of income, it sets a global precedent that many fear. More importantly, let's talk about the gas pump effect. We live in a global economy. If a major oil hub in the Middle East goes up in flames, the shockwaves will hit the New York Stock Exchange and your local gas station in hours. We aren't just talking about a few cents more per gallon, we are talking about a global energy crisis. For an American administration, whether it's Trump or anyone else, the question is, are we willing to risk $10 a gallon gas and a potential global recession just to send a message to Tehran? This is the invisible shield protecting Iran. They know that as long as they hold the world's energy markets hostage, a full-scale strike on their Huyet Mak, lifeblood, remains a move of last resort. It's a game of chicken where the stakes are our own economic stability. As the Iran-Israel war escalates, the world watches Karg Island, knowing that the first plume of smoke there could mean the end of the global economy as we know it. For those of us watching from across the Atlantic, the Iran-Israel war isn't just a headline, it's a question of American boots on the ground. We've seen the forever wars of the past 2 decades, and the fatigue is real. Every time a drone is launched or a mountain is leveled in the Middle East, families from Ohio to Florida ask the same thing: are our sons and daughters in danger? Right now, the US military is playing a high-stakes game of eyes in the sky. With advanced satellite constellations and high-altitude reconnaissance, Washington is monitoring every inch of Iranian soil. If a single gram of those 440 kilograms of uranium moves from a storage locker to an enrichment centrifuge, the US intelligence community knows it within minutes. This constant surveillance is the only thing preventing a blindside nuclear breakout. But the shadow of a broader conflict, a potential World War III, looms large. We aren't just dealing with Israel and Iran in a vacuum. We are talking about a region filled with American bases in Iraq, Jordan, and the UAE. Any misstep, any overcalculation by the Israel Defense Forces could trigger a retaliatory wave that puts thousands of American service members in the crosshairs. The American public is divided. Some argue that a decisive strike now prevents a nuclear nightmare later. Others warn that kicking this hornet's nest will lead to a regional conflagration that drags the US into another trillion-dollar conflict we cannot afford. This is the weight on the shoulders of the commander-in-chief. It's not just about stopping a bomb, it's about preventing a global collapse. As we look at the maps and the troop movements, the reality is clear. America is no longer just an observer. We are the reluctant referee in a match where the ring is rigged with explosives. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching a game of geopolitical chess where the pieces are made of enriched uranium and the board is the entire Middle East. We are standing at a crossroads. On one side, the fear of an Iranian nuclear state. On the other, the terrifying uncertainty of a total Iran-Israel war. Is there a path to peace, or is the nuclear ghost of Tehran already out of the bottle? The reality is that neither the US nor Israel has an easy button to press. There are no clean solutions, only varying degrees of risk. As we've explored, the bunkers are deep, the scientific knowledge is permanent, and the economic consequences of a strike on Karg Island could be felt at every kitchen table in America. We often look for heroes and villains in these stories, but the truth is usually found in the gray areas, in the difficult conversations happening in the situation room and the quiet calculations of intelligence officers. The question we must ask ourselves is, can we still avoid World War III, or have the gears of conflict already turned too far to be stopped? We want to hear from you. This isn't just a story for the history books, it's the world we live in today. Do you believe diplomacy can still work, or is a military confrontation inevitable to ensure our national security? Comment, pray for peace if you hope for de-escalation and a future where our troops stay home. Subscribe if you believe the truth matters more than headlines and you want to stay informed on the shifting tides of the US role in the world. The stakes for Israel and the global community couldn't be higher. Thank you for watching and stay vigilant.